All right, so hopefully everyone can hear me, and thank you for that introduction, Marie. And this is Beauty Botanicals, as it's been said, where we'll be just discussing some products that are derived from nature, stems, fruits, flowers, roots, you name it, just and how to select these products that we can use them to enhance what we've already been given, which is our beauty, and that is in both men and women. I did subtitle it today, What to Look For, because I actually felt that over the years we've seen the move from mainstream, which was all these wonderful products that has been out there that we thought were the greatest for us, for our skin, for our health. And then the concern came about that we needed to now learn to choose wiser and choose better. But what do you look for? What do you do? So, and even over the years, as more natural products have come onto the line or into our view, is it safe now to just say you can just go ahead and choose anything that says natural? Not quite. You still need to have a little knowledge of what you should be looking for in your skincare. So I thought that if we knew exactly what to look for, it wouldn't be so complicated. It's just like with your food. When you have the interest or a need that you have to make healthier and wiser selections, where do you begin? You basically start to look at your labels very closely. And it doesn't differ with Beauty Botanicals. You start right there. Matter of fact, that's the best place to begin. Begin with looking at your labels and reading them more properly. But before we get into that, I'd like to say a short word of prayer. I want to thank you this morning, Lord, for this privilege. I want to ask that this deliverance be clear, that the reception also be blessed, and the whole overall interaction be a blessing to all. It's our prayer in your name. Amen. So I thought it was impossible that we can actually talk about skincare or beauty care without touching that one main point, that one main word that comes up in the middle of it, and that is the skin. Knowing the importance of how the skin is, or what affects the skin and how the skin is affected, makes the process of selection so much easier. It helps you to also demystify some of the myths. The types that say, do not use this because it's no good for you, it's bad. But yet you might have enough defense against it. Or it may not be as bad as it's been said to you. What about when people say, it's natural, 100%, this free, that free, great to use? Believe it or not, you might have to have some concern about that also, because not everything that is labeled, unfortunately today, natural for us is that great for us or for our skin. So although we will only get to touch the surface today, what I'm hoping with is in the next few minutes, we can together quickly look at the skin. I'm not going to get into it in detail, just a few brief points so that we can reflect upon, and we'll read some labels, and hopefully I can give you a few simple ideas that you can do for yourself at home before we end. All right, so with that in mind, let's get right into it. The skin is roughly divided into 3 layers, and some of us already know this. The epidermis, which is that outer layer of the skin, the top layer, the first layer that you touch and see. A deeper layer called the dermis, and the hypodermis, which is where it contains your tissue. Here is a visual of it. And as you see the 3 layers that we just mentioned, I really wanted you to concentrate on this first layer, the epidermis layer. In it, it appears as though, well, it's true, it has more layers within it, as you can see. It appears here as though it's only 3, but in actuality, it's actually 5. It's 5 when you think of your hands and your feet, but around the rest of the body, it's actually only 4. And I'll explain as we go forward. That first layer at the top, the corneum, the stratum corneum, is this layer where we touch and feel where the hair follicles come out from. The second layer, the luteum, is only located in our hands, the palm of our hands and the soles of our feet. The next layer would be the granulosum. Followed by that, the middle layer is the spinosum, and the last one is the basal layer, which is this layer right here. Now, as you are observing this, I want you to take a very good look at the thickness of this layer. And remember that this is within just the epidermis layer alone. Consider now many other types of cells that are within these layers, like keratinocytes and Langerhans cells. But there's so many more I can't mention right now. They're all very important for the defense system of your body, especially when foreign matter or materials come into contact with your skin. They jump right into action, doing what they were designed to do. And speaking about design, this skin was wonderfully designed with all these layers of protection, and they're not so easily penetrated, actually. And still, that skin is broken or damaged in some way. So what am I saying to you? I am saying today that your skin has the ability to self-repair itself, to maintain, to construct, and even reconstruct itself. All it needs is nutrients that we can give it via what we eat. Yes, by your diet. And yes, I did say it. I'm sorry. I would be wrong to sit here and tell you that the shine, the glow, the non-oily, the non-dry skin that we also desire comes from what you select to put on it in your skincare product. It actually begins from what you can give the skin to do what it was designed to do best, optimally function in protecting the barrier of your skin. That's what it's all about. Now that we understand that importance of the skin and where the work begins, now we can actually look at how the products you select can affect you. Let's begin with penetration. Now, it's in our mind, the thickness of that skin that we just saw in those layers. To breach that skin depends upon a couple of factors. The first one is the ingredients. Whatever your product ingredients are is dependent upon a size. And each ingredient has molecules. Some are large, some are medium, some are small. Obviously, larger molecules products will, or ingredients will take longer to penetrate. Those that have smaller molecules will probably go through easier. It also depends upon the delivery mechanism. Now, what's that? Your delivery mechanism could be a perfume that you're using, a body butter, a lotion, leave-on product, or rinse-off product. Another factor, and the most important on this list, is your concentration. The concentration is how much you are using of what you are using. And that's usually followed by the duration, which is how long it's in contact with your skin. I'm going to go back to when I said leave-on and rinse-off products. A leave-on product, for those of you who may not be familiar with this, are those like lotion or body butter. You may put that on at some given time in the day and never remove it until hours later, before you wash it off. Whereas a rinse-off product like a shower gel or soap may be something that you would actually put on for what, 2-3 seconds, or almost immediately wash it off. So obviously, something that has been on your skin longer will penetrate even easier. The last factors here are the parts of the body that it's applied and the physical condition of the overall health. The part of the body, as I mentioned earlier, you have parts like your hands and your feet that have more layers and tend to be thicker. But what about the parts of the body that have the same amount of layers? There are some points that even though they have the same amount of layers, the way they've been constructed, they are thinner. The skin is just thinner. Therefore, penetration, depending on what kind of products you use in those areas, will happen faster. And of course, if the physical condition of the skin, meaning it's compromised, you have any type of skin problems, dermatitis, eczemas, or just simply cuts and wounds, irritations, these all expose the skin and allow things that you put on it to go into it much quicker. I have a little scale to make that a little bit more sense. This is showing us from what parts of the body I meant when it's thinner and can penetrate faster to what's thickest. The scrotal area in men, or even the genital for women, is the first, with the thinnest type of skin. The forehead is next, followed by the armpit, then your scalp, your back, and then your abdomen. And last but not least, which is usually the thickest to penetrate, is the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. Now, when you select where you put certain products, you can think about this a lot more. So what actually penetrates? Oils do. Most of our skincare products are made up of oil. Okay, the truth is maybe water, but you would hope that the second ingredient is your oil or your butter, especially in lotions and body oils and body butters. These oils, carrier oils to give the correct term to you, are oils like coconut oil and almond oil and castor oil, olive oil, the main oils you use. These mainly penetrate that very top layer that we were talking about, the cornea. Now, I won't say that some of these oils will not penetrate further past there, but the majority of the time, they only pass that very top layer. That's because they do something different. They create what you call an occlusive layer on the skin. They stay on the surface of the skin so long that they are able to trap water beneath it, giving it that smooth and softer temporary feel that we like to feel when we use a product. So they don't go much further most of the time. However, in that same idea of oils, we have essential oils. And essential oils are different. They have the ability to go much deeper in layer and even enter the bloodstream. Even though most of the time this happens through what we inhale, it still passes through those layers much easier than carrier oil. And it's a very important note to keep this in mind when you're working with making products, especially. Now, you might ask why? A lot of the reasons why it may do that is based upon some of the factors we just went over, its size and so on. But there's another point I want to draw about essential oil. Do you remember I mentioned earlier demystifying myths? Well, wouldn't you say essential oil is something very natural? Yes, it is. It is a very natural source because let's take lavender, for instance. Lavender oil, something that it comes from a flower, something that you might even be growing, and you may choose to extract the oil naturally. Howsoever means you choose to do that, infusing or extracting it, you will now have obtained a natural, lovely smelling oil. But what make up that oil or made up that oil is actually a number of components or constituents. And I'll even go far to use the word chemical. I'll explain later. But these components or constituents that make up lavender, like linalool or linalool acetate, is really what makes lavender what it is. If you play with these constituents, you may cease to have that lovely aroma of lavender, or you could even lose some of its therapeutic value. The reason I'm mentioning components in essential oils is because these same components have the tendency of being photosensitive or sensitizers, if you ever heard of it. Basically, allergens. They have the tendency to cause allergic reactions to the skin, especially used in high doses. And most of us don't pay attention to something like this. We love the aroma of it. We may make something and say, for instance, rose oil, we pour half the bottle because it smells so lovely and it's natural. But we could be doing a lot of damage to our skin, or even inner, because of the concentration of those sensitizers. You can go as far as having redness of skin, swelling, and irritation. So we might want to be very concerned now when we use essential oils, or you buy products as well that contain them, if the person who has made it hasn't listed all of those sensitizers on there, just in case you know the fact that you can get irritated by it. The next one is toxins or chemicals. And toxins and chemicals also pass through into our system via inhalation mostly, but they do have a tendency to pass through what we call diffusion, which means it can pass through those layers quicker. What I want you to be aware of with toxins, though, is that only in your liquid skincare products usually is how these toxins can pass through by diffusion. The other thing is that toxicity comes in phases. Toxicity has a acute phase. You've heard of it, I'm sure. And that's immediate effect. You take something and you put it onto your skin and you find that immediately you begin to feel, let's say, a burning sensation, something burning through your skin. Obviously, you'll stop it. And once you stop using it, that's the end of the acute phase of this effect. But what about the phase that's chronic, the one that you cannot tell? You're not feeling it, but over the length of time and the duration of time and the amount that you are actually putting onto your skin, you're doing quite the same type of damage. So most times concern with our skincare products are usually in that cumulative stage or the chronic toxic stage when you're dealing with toxicity in your product. So with that mouthful, I thought we could now look at a label. Now this label is of a shower gel, And as you can see, it's mainly made up of water. The same idea with your food label should take place here, where you realize that the first ingredient on that list is the most of what that product is made from. In this case, they have water, but you would hope that the second ingredient on the list is the one with value. Because in that case, you look at most of your products and you say, well, it's just water. Might as well just use water. But hopefully the second ingredient is the one that is holding the weight. And in this case, a shower gel, you would want something that lathers and something that's very soapy, and sodium lauryl sulfate will definitely do the job. But before I get into speaking about that, I wanted you to know exactly what I would think should be done with the label as such. This label is clouded and it has a lot to look up and a lot to research and a lot that the average person, including myself, will not understand when you just look at it. Therefore, over the years and my experience, I've come up with a better way to decide if I want to use your product. And that I want to share with you. There are 4 categories that I look at. I think they're highly important. And once you've looked at these categories, it's a little bit more easier to determine if you even want to get into half of these ingredients on a label like this. This bottle, I'll probably put back on the shelf and not worry much. The very first ingredient or topic, or I should say category, that I'd like you to look at when you look at a label is irritants. Irritants are those that irritate the skin. It says it just as it is. These irritants sometimes irritate people, might irritate you, but it wouldn't irritate me. Our bodies differ. So yes, irritants don't always take the top of the list. And therefore, even for me, it may not always be the priority choice that makes me choose if I want to use that product or not. However, it's still very important, especially for someone like me who makes products for others, because you want to take into consideration if you already have compromised skin, meaning any skin that has complications already upon it, like dermatitis, you probably will not want to use things with irritants that further irritate skin of such, or even fragrances. So yes, it's an important category, but I'll explain a little bit later as to why I don't always hold it as the primary one in deciding what I want. The second category we spoke about already is toxicity. You definitely want to take toxicity into consideration when selecting your skincare. The third is carcinogens. Carcinogens are any substance that is capable of causing cancer in the living tissue, as well as increasing those that already exist. And the last is mutagens. Mutagens are similar, but they change genetic material, usually your DNA, and they tend to increase the mutation, the frequency of mutation in that process. So as you can see, irritants, as I mentioned, also has quick fixes, I call them. If you use something that irritates you, more than likely you stop using it, the irritation will go away. Even if it takes days or moments or weeks, usually once you stop using it, it will cease to irritate you any longer. However, the other three categories, if you miss or realize, or by the time you realize that it may be causing you some effects, sometimes it's a bit too late. They don't have quick fixes for them. So usually by the time I get to toxicity, carcinogens, or mutagens, it's a definite cutoff as to if I want to use that product or not. So with that in mind, I wanted you to have this information. I wanted you now to be able to go identify these categories when you look at a label, which helps you to chop a busy label like this down in half very quickly. But how do you do that? Well, you can start on Google. Everybody goes to Google, and truth is, Google does have some good answers. Google will probably bring up a search for you that has resources like Healthline, Wikipedia, and if the topic is something in the media at the time or over the years has been, you may find articles by places like CDC, FDA, OSHA, companies and agencies that you well know. And I want to stress on being or staying with legitimate resources, because everyone has something to say. And when you focus on some of the resources like blogs and personal opinions, they are just that, personal opinions. There is no substantial evidence to support a lot of the things that might be said. So if you really want to know if something causes cancer in humans, you should look at legitimate resources. I do have one main resource that I like to use that I want to suggest to you today. It's an easy source to be able to research any ingredient used in skincare, beauty care, chemicals, anything that you can possibly touch should be able to be researched in this document. It's a standard document, and it's my suggestion to you today. It's called MSDSs or SDSs, Material Safety Data Sheets. You may have also heard of it. In these, they've been designed for the person who has to work with this, whatever it is, chemical in its raw state. So don't get too nervous. It has a lot of stuff going on in it, but I did try to take a snapshot so you can actually see the section that I would like you to concentrate on. The section that answers all the questions to those categories that I spoke about earlier. As you will see, we're talking about sodium lauryl sulfate on this one as that first ingredient in that label.
Sorcery or divination.
And
the Lord your God has not permitted you to
is what we're going to look at. Most of these forms are usually very
your astrologers come forward, those stargazers who make predictions month by month. Let them save you from what is coming upon you.
Known carcinogens, and they make life easy. Sometimes you do have some that will give you a bit of a table like this, and it seems as though it's complicated.
That is all they are to you.
They're not complicated. I want you to know that words and codes like LD50, LD50,
so how can you recognize and overcome the deceiving spirits and doctrines?
Is the lethal dose or the lethal concentration of 50, which is half of the percent of the test population that they were testing. And in a case like this, derma and inhalation is all that you want to worry about when it comes to your skincare. It's telling you that this amount here that they have in their brackets is the amount it took to make that lethal dose or that lethal concentration to kill half of the population that they were actually testing. Now, yes, I won't go and try to figure out the 1% in my skincare product. Does it have this amount to kill some cells in me? No. What I like you to take away from this, especially when they give you a nice little note like this that says delayed and immediate effects as well as chronic effects from short and long-term exposure, is to take with you the potential. The fact that the test has been done and there's a potential that with exposure from a long time, it can accumulate. and it has the potential acute-wise immediately if the right dose is made to actually kill live tissue. You go down, you see irritation. It says irritating to the eyes and skin. Remember that this form is talking to humans. Even if they do tests only on animals, they will specify. But it's talking to humans, so it is telling you it is a known irritant to your eyes and to your skin. And as you go down, the same idea, you'll find every of those one of those categories. Sometimes carcinogens will list you, but the agencies might say they don't have any information. If they do and they use codes, they'll put a key somewhere around where you'll be able to determine what they're saying. If you ever open an MSDS and it's too complicated to understand, close it and open another one. There are a number of MSDSs on every chemical that you need to research and define. So you can search until you find one that's friendly. So the next one I want to show you here is a label that says ingredients to avoid. I thought it was a cute label because it has all these things saying to stay away from it. Maybe not everything I would go crazy for, but we did talk about SLS. That was the irritant we just saw in that MSDS. I do have 3 more I'd like to share with you. The B word. MIT, one that I think a lot of people have been hearing about, and it was one of those that people talk about a lot all over. It doesn't have a lot of evidence behind it to say that it is what people have been saying, but its MSDS has definitely said it's toxic to animals and it's a possible irritant to your skin. The concern, I think, is because it's a biocide. And a biocide is a substance that destroys living things. We know them. Our pesticides, our herbicides, our fungicides. That's what it does. MIT is used as a preservative to help keep the organisms down that can potentially grow in your skincare products. But does that mean you have to? Not necessarily. Your choice. Now, once you have the information as to how you want to use and what you want to use. Benzyl alcohol, same idea. It's used in all your preservatives, almost all. You can find a few that do not use benzyl alcohol, but then that means you may have to make more research to find those that you can select that will be able to keep down all organisms from growing in your product. For those of you who are thinking about doing this for yourself, here's a little tip. Once you put water into your product, you introduce water into it, you have to use a preservative. It's kind of like choosing the best of the worst. You don't want organisms definitely to be growing in your product that you're sharing with your family or with your friends. But at the same time, I understand you do not want to add things to it that has toxicants or possibly can irritate you. And here's where I said earlier why irritants weren't at the top of my list. Because in a case like this, some natural preservatives that I may find that can cover all coverage of organisms growing in my product, they may still end up just being an irritant. And if I had to choose, I would rather to know I closely observe using something that has a potential of being an irritant versus allowing any type of organisms to grow in a product that I would share with someone to use. So food for thought. Flatylates is almost my last one, and it's an ester. It's considered a plasticide, which is a substance that makes things softer. Flatylates is basically toxic, orally, dermally, inhalation. It's a sensitizer just like those essential oils, the components in the essential oils I mentioned earlier. Flatylates are used mainly in your fragrances, which is why this list has so many fragrances over it. But you do have the option to use flatulate-free fragrance in your products if you choose to. Here's also another myth that I'd like to demystify for you. You know, something made artificial or made in the lab, like fragrances from chemicals, has all the flags to stay away from. But did you know you can get natural fragrances? Which is taking those same components that we talked about from essential oils earlier and manipulating them and mimicking and imitating the same lovely aromas that you would like to smell in your product. So therefore, you can use a natural fragrance, which means it's, even though you're producing it, it's not naturally extracted from the plant. but it's still natural, or it's still okay to use on the skin because the things you used were naturally obtained and then put together to give you the product that you have. So yes, sometimes something that says natural may not be all that great, but then there are things that might say artificial, but if it was obtained naturally, are okay to use. And last but not least are parabens. I know everybody has heard about parabens. You can learn no parabens because it has been a scare for quite some time. Parabens are chemicals that are used as preservatives as well. And they can be found naturally in your food. But it's how it's obtained, the amount, the way it's processed. Yes, in high concentration, some of them can be irritating to the skin and have high toxicity levels. I mentioned type because parabens come also in many forms: methyl, ethyl, butyl, propyl, you name it. And the combination sometimes, germaben, a bunch of them put together, and you can't avoid it. So it's up to you now to choose if you really want to use something. And in their case, they tend to build up and then enter the layers of the skin. So it's a way that you have to take. And most times it doesn't end well. So it's nice that if you don't know, which is my motto, if you don't know much about it, then you probably want to leave it alone. Quickly, you see what I'm saying? I just want you to see what I was saying. Methyl, ethyl, how it's multiple sometimes. So even if one of them has a problem and you have about 5 of them in your product, you'll never be able to tell what will happen with time. So I did promise you that this is what to look for. And I found something. Here is a label, the cleanest I could find so far. And the idea is, I've already said to you in the beginning, that if you use the right nutrition, you've already have half of the answer to healthy, better looking skin. So then the answer to your product is to give it the same source of food. Give your skin food skin or skin food. And in this case, it's something sweet. This is made from sugar, sunflower oil, mango butter, jojoba oil, seed oil, pomegranate oil, orange oil, hoed oil, coriander, some vitamin E, and a little rosemary extract. I don't know, maybe it sounds a little yummy, but the point is, it's something you might feel like you can eat, or it sounds like you can eat, is the idea when you select a label for your skin product. I also added one of our labels. It's a men's oil. I wanted you to also see that not everything may look like something you want to actually eat, but the point is being able to identify. This is made from almond oil, avocado oil, some vitamin E, and a series of woody essential oils. As you look at it, you can see, you can identify everything that's in these 2 labels. No need for an MSDS or any research material to find out what's in it, because it's simple. So to many of you that I know are probably here watching who would want to not deal with anything, just go out and know the resources where you can go. I'm sorry that I'm not able to tell you a bunch of places or a number of places that will be able to have labels like this. A matter of fact, this one, I only got the back picture of it. I don't even know who made this one. But I hope that I've equipped you now with the knowledge of how to pick up a bottle on a shelf or a package that comes with your products or your skincare and know how to select better what's in it. And for those of you who I know probably won't bother to go look for it, but you would tend to want to experiment, you have that little side like I do. Well, I also suggest to you to start simple. And simple means start with playing with the things or experimenting with the things like oils and butters that are simple to blend and mix and get familiar with them. This hobby or this love for this takes research. I won't lie to you, it takes a lot of research to know what works and what doesn't. So for instance, start with an intent. If you have an intent, and your intent in this case might be, let's say, dry skin. I want to make something for people with dry skin. then start looking into those oils that stay on the surface, like we said earlier, longer, like coconut oil. Use an oil that will trap that water beneath and give moisture and hydrate the skin. You can start with only that coconut oil. But if you want to try one, my suggestion is no more than 2 oils. You can choose another oil that does lovely moisturizing and not quite 50-50, but use more of the one that you like and maybe 48% of the other one, and leave 1% for your beautiful aroma essential oil or your natural fragrance oil, and leave 1% for vitamin E or rosemary extract. Like in this case, they use both because they actually help your oil to stay on the shelf longer, not to go rancid. And with your body butter, I was going to suggest just what you see here, mango butter or shea butter. They're 2 easy butters to play with because they're cold. They do not require heat. But if you do want to go and try a heating process, you can try cocoa butter, which is also very easy to work with. But I suggest starting cold, where you can just mash this with a spoon and work with it, adding a little bit of oil and always leaving that 2%, a little bit for your rosemary or your vitamin E, whichever one is more suitable for what you're making, and leaving that 1% for some a lovely aroma. So I do hope that is a little bit that I could share with you today in where to begin, how to start, and hopefully you're comfortable. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you today. And if you do want to contact us at Simply Formulated, you can at info@simplyformulated.com. I think now we're supposed to have
Thank you so very much, Celine. Great presentation. I'm sure everyone took something away from your presentation. We'll now have time for a few questions. There's some questions in the chat. I will begin with the first question I'm seeing here, and that question is coming from I believe it's Sister Irene. Let me just scroll back up a bit here. No, actually, I don't see a name, but the question says, what are the best botanical to use for tired feet, dry heels in the winter?
The best kind of botanicals to use for
tired feet, dry heels in the winter.
Dry heels. Okay, so you would want to actually, for especially dry feet, as I mentioned earlier, remember there's more skin on these areas, the hands and the feet. So you want to use something that is super moisturizing. Meaning it has that potential to hydrate the skin. Usually you will use things that the word just left me. I'm sorry. Meaning for your hands and your feet. But butters or lotions that are thick and moisturizing, usually containing deep oils like almond oil or those heavy oils, castor oil, olive oil, that can penetrate very easy. I won't be able to tell you what products you may find out there, but you do want to find products that contain oils that can do the work, that can sit on that heel, those skin, and penetrate it to the point to moisturize it and give it the hydration that it needs.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answers the question. Yes. Sienna is asking, are there any essential oils that can be used for poor circulation or blood clots, since it can penetrate deep into the skin?
I would say that back to the question, that there is I'm sure there is oils that can. If I could tell you them all from the top of my head at this point in time, I'm sorry, I couldn't. But essential oils are generally used for therapeutic value if you know how to use them and what to use. So the answer is yes. There are many that are used towards circulation. So you would just have to do your research on which ones they are. But most of all, which is probably the hardest task you will have, is finding the value in that oil, meaning finding a place or a provider that can supply you with that oil that has that therapeutic value in it.
Okay, thank you. I'm seeing the timer. We have 5 minutes left. So I've placed the link in the chat for the survey. I encourage everyone to just please complete the survey on this presentation and submit it as soon as possible. We want to get you back out for your we would like to get you back out to the main room for the next gift giveaway, 15-minute break gift giveaway. I just want to read this question here for you, Sister Montrose. My adult son, this is coming from Sharon. My adult son has had skin infection on face and back for over 8 years. He has severe scarring and deep pits. What can you recommend for him?
Well, first of all, which I figure you're already doing, Ms. Sharon, is seeking the attention that it would need from a certified dermatologist in that case. But if you just want to look at it now from a natural point, I would definitely say, I hope that you've already probably stopped or discontinued any use of any type of products that do have fragrance in them or any type of additive in them. They do tend to continue to irritate the skin. Remember, I also started this about diet. I stress on it. Diet first takes a great part in dealing or figuring out what to do with when it comes to things of such. So I do think you should also take that into consideration and make sure that there isn't something that is causing it from the diet. You want to first ascertain that cause, and once you've ascertained the cause, then you're able to start doing what you have to do. But in terms of skincare, at least begin by stop using anything that can possibly be contributing to it, and use products that are solely pure, maybe tea tree, but I wouldn't even go with the tea tree.
Rooms, breakout room presenters, please be reminded that your 15-minute break session is now about to begin. 15-minute break session and prize giving session. Thank you.
The survey link not working either. The survey link is not working.
You're not, what is the, okay.
The survey link that you gave to do the survey.
Yes.
It's not
Okay. We'll have the link updated. When you get back to the breakout room, I'll be sure to post it. And I encourage
okay.
each and every one to please complete the survey once you see that link posted in the chat. I know there are a few questions in the chat pertaining to obtaining the recording. Once again, once you complete the survey, you can indicate which recordings you will be interested in. Okay. I thank you so much. As you heard, I'm getting the cue to get you guys back to the main session. I know there are a few other questions, Celine. Unfortunately, due to the time, we're unable to get to those questions. I apologize to everyone. Okay, so we can get back to the main session at this time. Just go to the bottom of your screen and leave our room. Should get you back to the breakout session. I mean, the main session, sorry.